Welcome to session 3 of Hearing God's Voice. Today we're going to be looking at 2 more ways in which God can speak to us. We're going to be looking at Him speaking to us through dreams and also how He can speak to us through visions or pictures. I would like to share with you at the start of this one something which is just worth bearing in mind as we talk about God speaking to us through our visual imagination, whether we're awake or whether we're asleep. I have learned over the past years that we think in different ways. My husband has a condition called aphantasia, which means that he cannot see pictures in his mind. He doesn't have a visual imagination. So if I asked him to imagine an apple, and I asked him what colour was the apple and what did the background look like behind the apple, he would just look at me like, what are you going on about? I don't see an apple. Like, I know apples are green and red, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what apple colour I'm seeing. Whereas for myself, I'm on the opposite extreme and I have a condition called hyperphantasia, where my visual imagination has all of the senses. So I can see and smell and taste and touch and hear things all in my imagination. So if you asked me what an apple looked like, and if I was to imagine it, I'd be able to tell you the taste of it. I'd be able to feel the skin and all of that side of things. So we're all somewhere along this scale of how our minds work. And what I have found is it doesn't matter whether you're a visual person, whether you're on the high end of hyperphantasia like myself, or whether you don't see pictures in your mind, whether you're aphantastic like my husband, God can still speak to you using pictures or visions or dreams. And my husband and I are examples of this. My husband has in the past received a picture or a vision from God, despite him not being able to see pictures in his imagination. And perhaps for him, it's more easy for him to identify that as being God speaking to him, because that's not normal for him. Whereas for myself, who has pictures going around her head most of the time, it's then more difficult for me to identify, is that a picture from God or is that just my imagination? And that's where the discernment side really comes into play. So as we go forward with this topic, it's just being aware that actually we all think in different ways, but no matter where you are on that scale, God can still speak to you using pictures and dreams and visions. So don't dismiss yourself from hearing him this way if you don't normally have a visual imagination. We're going to look at how God can speak to us through dreams. There are many accounts in the Bible of how God has spoken to people through dreams, and I'll give you some of those passages to look up after this video. I'd like to share with you a story of how I feel like God has spoken to me through a dream. I think it's so important to share these stories to help us to realise that actually God still speaks in these ways today. It's not just limited to the Bible, He still speaks to us today. So I'd like to share this example with you. The dream that I had in particular was of a family, a mum, dad, and 2 little boys. And I don't remember the exact details now, but in the dream, something had happened to the mother and something had happened to the father. I'm not sure now if I dreamt that the mother had died, but something had happened, and these 2 boys were left alone. And I had a real compassion for them, and I decided that I was going to adopt them. And I woke up, it was in the middle of the night, and I woke up and I felt led to pray. It felt like a different dream to the ones that I normally have. I'm the kind of person that dreams every night, but something felt different with this one. And it led me to pray, and in particular pray for protection over this family and over these boys. So I prayed and then went back to sleep. And then I found out a week or so later, through someone else, that the mother in this dream had fallen unconscious. And I think it was a few days after I'd had this dream that this had happened. She'd fallen unconscious whilst at home alone with her two boys, and her husband at the time was at work and working several hours away. And these two boys, they were very young children, were just left in the house whilst their mother was unconscious on the bathroom floor. And thankfully, they were all okay. Thankfully, the little ones didn't get up to anything to put them in danger, and thankfully the mother was okay, and the dad returned home and found her. But I don't believe it was a coincidence that happened following that dream. I believe that God gave me that dream to make me pray for that protection for the family. And I thank God for that. I thank God that he gave me that, and he led me to pray. So that's just one example that I've had where I feel like God's really spoken to me through a dream, and it felt like it was confirmed through the events that then happened. And I'm thankful that they were all safe and they were all well, and that they were protected by God. So have a look at the Bible passages and the questions that I've got for you. God also speaks to us through pictures and visions. And what I mean by pictures and visions is where you see something that's not physically there in front of you, but you're seeing it, whether it's a picture in your imagination or whether it's like a vision playing out as like a movie before your eyes. But it's some kind of visual image of something that's not there in the physical, but you can see it. Again, there are many examples in the Bible of how God uses pictures and visions to speak to people, and I will give you some of those to look up and to discuss after this video. I have struggled to choose an example to share with you from my own life, because there have been many, but many are so personal to the individuals that I've shared them with, and so it doesn't feel right for me to share them without their permission. However, I will give you a very brief, vague overview of how God has used pictures and visions to speak to me in my own life. Often he will give me a picture in my mind of just an object, and whenever I see the person it's for, it's like this object is there, and it's just strongly associated with them, and I can't budge it. Like, it just niggles at me until I've shared it with them. And there have been several examples of that where I've had real confirmation it has been from God through what they've shared afterwards, or just seeing the fruit of that in their lives. I've had several moments as well where I've had visions for people, particularly through song, where I've been sat at the piano playing, and it's like a picture, a vision has come into my mind, and I'm singing what I'm seeing, and it's been for a specific person. And again, I've had real confirmation of that through the fruit that I've seen and how it's impacted them and transformed their life. I've also had it where I've had a picture or a vision for someone, and then the sort of following months or whatever timescale it's been, we've seen what I felt God speak to me then happen um, in their life, and in my own life as well, where people have given me pictures, or where God's given me a picture for me. I've then seen it play out in my own life following that. So I'm sorry I can't give you more specific examples. They're very private to the individuals, and to myself as well. The ones that God has given me are fairly private to me. So I will happily share some of them from my own life one-to-one, but as this is going out on YouTube, I didn't really feel comfortable with that because they're quite private. But that being said, the most important place to go and have a look at visions and pictures and how God speaks is in the Bible. So I'll give you some passages there to go and have a look at, and some questions to dig into. The practical tip this week is the word surrender. There is so much power in saying that you surrender when you're speaking to Jesus. There is so much power in those words, I surrender. And the surrender definitely comes into play when we talk about hearing from God, because it's essential that you are surrendering your own ambitions and your own thoughts, and that you are truly trying to listen to God. It can be very easy to say, I'm going to listen to God about this specific thing, and your thoughts on it are what's kind of playing, and you think, well, this must be what God's saying because this is what I think and this is my opinion and I am right. But you really need to surrender that side and ask God for His will. What is it that He wants? What is it that He's saying on this particular thing that you might be asking about? It's so important. And it can be hard to do. It's not always easy to put aside our own opinions and our own judgments and our own thoughts and feelings on something. But it's much better to actually surrender and to listen to God's will and God's heart on matters. So surrender is the first one. And actually, I'm going to give you a second alongside this, and that's to be obedient. Obedience is so key as well when it comes to hearing from God. He may give you a word, something to share, a picture to share. He may ask you to do something. And when you have discerned if it is from Him, you need to be obedient if it is. And it can be very uncomfortable. I have been pushed out of my comfort zone so many times through God asking me to share something with someone. I am naturally a very shy, introverted person. I find small talk very difficult. I find going up and speaking to someone that I don't know very difficult. But there have been many occasions where God has given me a picture or a word for someone, and I've just had to be obedient in it. And my heart has been pounding and I wanted to run the other direction. But I know it's worth it. I know because I've seen the fruit of it over the years. I've seen what He does when you share something that's from Him. Oh, it far outweighs the uncomfortable feelings and the pounding heart or whatever else it may be. But it's so important, the obedience. Trust Him. It's not easy. It's not always easy, but it's so important. So surrender and be obedient, I think, are two really key things when it comes into hearing God's word and being able to act upon that, whatever it is that He might share with you. The discernment tool for this week is twofold, but they're both to do with other people. So, firstly, you may feel like maybe you've had a word from God, but you're not quite sure. You could go and seek counsel and wisdom from someone that you could trust, someone who you know is a faithful Christian, a mature Christian, someone who loves their Bible, who's prayerful. You could go to them and seek their wisdom and their prayers and their discernment on whether it's from God or not. I think it's important, however, before you share anything that you feel like God may have said with anyone, that you ask Him, is it okay for me to share this with such a person? Sometimes God speaks to us and gives us words that are not meant to be shared. They're just there for you to pray about something. So ask God before you share it with anyone. Am I okay to share this? Is there that sense of peace that you get about sharing it? Think through it, like, what are the consequences of me sharing this information with this person? Just have that level of common sense and wisdom, really, about, am I okay to share this? Even if you're only sharing it to seek further discernment. And then secondly, you may find that it's confirmed through other people. So, for example, you may have received a verse or a passage from the Bible and you're not sure if that's God speaking to you about a specific situation. You may find that then people share the same part of the Bible with you in the coming day or week or whatever. And it's like that passage just keeps coming back. That can maybe be a way to discern. But again, I'd use these discernment tools with other discernment tools as well to get that full picture. And maybe other people just speak words to you that feel like they're a real confirmation. So as a quick example, when I was looking for a job, I'd applied to be a children's worker, and I needed that confirmation that that was what God was asking me to do. And I went for prayer, and then in the following weeks I had 3 different people from 3 different areas of my life all come to me and say, children's ministry is your calling, without any prompting from me. I hadn't shared with them my sort of fears and worries about, is this from God or not? But they just confirmed that that's what I should be doing. And so I had 3 people saying, this is your calling. So that felt to me like it was confirmation of God speaking. So it's now your turn to have a go. I would like you to ask God to give you a picture or a vision for someone. I would like you to choose someone who you know loves you, who you love, someone who will be able to understand that you're just practicing, you're just trying to hear God's voice, and that it might not be right, and for them to be able to receive that well. Perhaps if you're doing this as a house group, you could choose someone within your house group. If you know me, you're welcome to use me. But just choose someone who you know is someone that you can be safe with, someone that you know you can make mistakes with, and it'll be okay. I'm actually going to talk to you in one of the future sessions about how to give words from God to people and how to receive them. So we're jumping a little bit ahead here, and if you want to wait until you've heard that session, then that's absolutely fine. Feel free to do that. But what I would like you to do is, when you've chosen someone to pray for, ask God, what is on your heart for this person? What do you love about this person? What do you want to say to this person? Just ask God questions about them, and ask Him to give you a vision, to give you a picture, and just make note of what comes to mind. He may speak to you in a different way as well, so just take note again of those random thoughts popping into your mind, the inner voice you might hear, any scriptures that come to mind. Just make note of what's coming up as you're praying for this person. And then if you're feeling confident to share it with them, if you feel like it is from God, you can share it with them. If you're unsure, you could share it with them, but just explain, I don't know if this is from God, I'm just trying. Please discern for yourself. But just have a go. Pick someone that you can be safe with to just try it out and see if God speaks to you. Since recording this session, I've had permission of a lady to share with you the testimony of how a vision from God has changed her life. This is very recent, and the lady was not a Christian, and she messaged me asking if I could share some Bible verses with her just to help her. And I said I would, but I didn't want to just pluck out random scripture. I wanted to go to God and to listen to him and to find out what was on his heart for this lady, to make it more specific to her. What scripture does he want me to share with her, rather than what do I think would be helpful? So I went away and I prayed. I jotted down words, pictures, scriptures that came to me as I was praying. And then I went to the piano. I find for myself personally that I can hear God more clearly when I'm playing music. And that's something I'll touch on in a future session. But for now, I was playing the piano and I saw a vision as I was playing of a girl dancing in the rain at night. And there's a bit more to it, but for the sake of the story, that's what the vision was. And I recorded it, I sent it to her, and after she'd listened to it, I got a message from her saying that what the song was about, that vision that I'd seen, was of a event in her childhood where she had been out there dancing in the rain at night. And it then went on where, as she was listening, and every time she listened to this song, she was just receiving healing. And so much so, she just encountered God in such a powerful way through it that it's transformed her life. She is now going to be baptized, she's joined church, she's just a changed lady, and it's been so beautiful to see just the light within her, the new life that she has now, and how she just wants to live for God now. It's just so beautiful. So there's an example of how a vision from God can just transform a life.